What's up, guys? It's Mickey with Jimmy. How you doing today, Jim?
It's another good day. Good day. I'm off, so can't beat the weather, and yeah, I'm enjoying my downtime.
Yeah, for sure. We are Dynasty from the Mountain Tops, and Jimmy is on vacation this week
Yes.
from his actual job. So
Yeah, we need to hurry this up because I got a mani pedi scheduled for after this. So I'm gonna go
yeah,
with my
taking
feet done.
advantage of all
Yeah.
of that, right?
Yeah.
So real quick, the lineup we got for today, kind of short on time today. So it's all about trades. We're mid season in the NFL, mid season in Dynasty. It's all about trades. We got the NFL trades fallout from those massive trades that just happened this past week. Current trades in our league, just like every other week, but we had some big ones this week.
Make it probably the biggest trade of my life in 6 years.
Yeah, right. So. And we had a three-way as well, which you don't see very often. It was fun, trust me. And then we also want to talk about when to trade. So we're talking about all these trades happening in the NFL, happening in Dynasty. When do you want to trade is something that I really like to talk about as well. And then if there's time, we'll continue that value conversation that we had last week. If you were able to listen to it, if not, go back, listen to it, and then follow up with this one if we have some time, if time permits. But we got a lot about trades talking about today, so we'll get started with the biggest trade probably in the NFL. There were two big ones, but the biggest one for sure is Davante Adams coming home to Aaron Rodgers. Not necessarily to Green Bay, but now he's a New York Jet. Really, what I want to know from you, Jim, is what is the dynasty ramifications of this, especially for the second or third year guy, Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I think two receivers on a team can function well together. They love to throw the ball. Their offensive line is not great. The problem is I think he's going from the 1A to 2A now. So that what makes it a little bit tougher because, Davante is going to be his guy. I mean, I think I read something yesterday where he was the number one in targets, but like 12th in yards. So that I have some concern there that those targets are going to go down. So that probably will impact yards on some level as well, too. So, if I have him, I'm holding tight because Davante Adams, 12-game fix or how many games are left in the season. But yeah, Davante should be his number one guy like he's always been. And obviously you could tell that Garrett and Aaron Rodgers has not been on the same page. So I would definitely have some concern if I'm a Wilson owner at this point.
Yeah, see, I think you hold tight with Wilson, just like you said. However, I think this kind of opens up Wilson a little bit because now I'll just use Patrick Surtain because he's the top corner probably in the NFL. Surtain's going to be on Adams and not Wilson. So now Wilson might not worry about those double coverages, those triple coverages that were going towards him, and why Allen Lazard was so open all the time. Everyone's not focusing in on him, and now you have Breece Hall running, who ran phenomenal last week. You have Davante Adams on one side, probably doing the shorter stuff, to be honest, being 32, I believe, 31, 32, in his 30s. And Garrett Wilson, not that he has super wheels, but he's definitely, I'm sure he's faster than Davante Adams at 32 or in his early 30s. So you might be seeing a little bit more deep ball from Garrett Wilson than we really have seen so far in his career.
Yeah, but it makes you think. Like, I wonder how high the Jets are on Garrett Wilson because they brought in Mike Williams. Granted, he was hurt, but he was their number two, and they like their tight ends. They have Breece Hall. Like, yes, I know Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback and his BFF is Davante Adams, but I don't know. I wonder if there's some noise in the locker room purely speculating. Like, we've seen Garrett Wilson over the years. Like, maybe he's just not that good. And you look like Malik Neighbors, who, great situation, but terrible quarterback. And that's kind of what Garrett Wilson's had the last couple of years. He's never really done well with that. So, like, I wonder if they do this trade. I'm like, I just wonder if Garrett Wilson's maybe just not that good. He's a little bit overrated.
Okay. I can see that because you talk about, I know Justin Jefferson's in a whole other category on his own, but you could be throwing the ball to him and he would still make it work.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson just doesn't have that. He needs who can get him the ball. Well, even with Aaron Rodgers, he hasn't really done much.
Yeah.
He's had one decent games.
Yeah.
But not that top 5, top 7 pick that you were expecting in Dynasty. Anything else you want to talk about with this? I think this opens up Mike Williams to be traded as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, regardless, he's on a 1-year deal regardless. So I can see him. I mean, they're the Super Bowl boss, so I don't know why they would trade him. Like he'd be the great number 3 unless Lazard will stick at that role. But Mike Williams has never been that route runner. He's that fast guy, takes it up the top off, and that's not something Garrett or Devontae does. They're more route running. So I'd be curious if they keep him and just kind of see what they can do with that offense.
He's kind of the one who's going to open up the field for the other two.
Yeah.
I can see that. I know people in Pittsburgh are speculating, being in Pittsburgh, I know they're speculating that Mike Williams might be a Steeler.
Or any receiver on the market. That seems to be linked to any receiver on the market seems to be linked to Pittsburgh these days.
Yeah, right. Anytime that there's a possibility, they're like, "Oh, we're getting them." We're not. It doesn't look like we're going to get anybody, but we'll see. Anyway, the other trade, I just think the Bills came out with this because they were like, "Oh, Jets, you think you're going to be the only one? All right, here you go." And they trade for Amari Cooper.
I think this speaks more for Keon Coleman than anything. I think like you saw what Brian Thomas Jr. has done, Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, and these guys have started hot right out of the gate. And Keon Coleman's biggest issue was separating. And what do? They trade for a guy who can separate. So I think this is more on Keon Coleman than it is that Bills needed that true number 1 receiver.
Yeah, no, I think this speaks a lot about Coleman now. I was a huge Coleman believer, and it's not necessarily because I believed in him this year. I believe in him in the future because of what he can be, what he can turn into, if that makes sense. And right now, the Bills, with Josh Allen, can win every year. I mean, they have that quarterback. They have a good defense, as we've seen, and they're hurt on defense, so just imagine if they get healthy. And also, Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel are 2 good possession receivers, but you need that dude.
Yeah.
That Stephon Diggs was, basically, for Josh Allen. And that is what Amari Cooper specializes in, is that X.
Yeah.
Is that being that go-to guy. I know I've been listening to stats all day. Oh, well, he only caught 33% of his passes. Look who's throwing in the ball. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn right now in Deshaun Watson. So now you go to arguably one of the best throwers in the game in Josh Allen. I think this unlocks Amari Cooper. If I would have been smart about this, I would have traded for him before the trade because now he's going to be double what you would have paid for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a 31-year guy. Yeah, I don't know if it would have impacted his value much, but yes. It's someone I would want to have on my team, not someone that I would be trying to trade away at this point.
Well, trading away, I think you get more for him. Trading for, I think you're going to overbuy right now. If that makes sense.
I probably would. I mean, you probably could buy him for a second. I would expect, which interesting, be good either way.
Because I see him as possibly that Diggs replacement.
Yeah, but at the same time, the Bills don't want to throw the ball. You look at what their team does; is they want to run the ball. They want to run 2 tight ends. They've been taking the ball out of Josh Allen's hands more and more. The way that offense is functioning. So I don't know if he's, I don't know if Amari Cooper has that top 12 season in him, but I think he should be the league guy. What that means at the end of the season, we'll see.
Yeah. And he's also quiet. Like, he's had a lot of trades and things like that. And this is something else that I've heard recently is he's always been quiet. He's not that diva type wide receiver, which is maybe something they wanted to bring into that clubhouse as well to teach the young guys, and Khalil Shakir and
or maybe how
Coleman. This is how you handle being a professional in Buffalo.
Or maybe how you separate Keon Coleman.
He's not a separator. He, just like George Pickens. Again, I'm talking about the Steelers. Just like George Pickens, they're not separators. They go up and get the ball.
Yeah, but I mean, separators is what that's what you're looking for. That's how you get a top 12 season. That's how you get 120 targets is by having that separation, be able to get those quick passes out and stuff like that. And that's how offenses run these days.
You're right, but there's not many people that have the ball skills that those kind of players do.
No, but I mean, when you
catch
figure out
that ball in traffic, even without having the route running ability of a Amari Cooper or Deontay Johnson or whoever else you want to say, they're able to catch everything. I know Coleman dropped the ball this past week, but they're able to catch almost everything. Let me put it that way. So we'll see what happens here. We just had to talk about these 2 trades and see if there's anything else you wanted to talk about between these 2 guys or anything else going on in the NFL right now.
I thought the Cam Akers trade was interesting. I wonder. I thought that means more for Aaron Jones. I wonder how healthy he is for them to make a trade like that. I'd be monitoring Aaron Jones and kind of seeing what that backfield looks like for the next couple weeks. But that's all I had.
I didn't hear this. I'm sorry. Cam Akers is Minnesota again?
Yeah.
Interesting. So maybe they don't believe in Ty Chandler as much as everyone thought.
Could be as well, but could be Aaron Jones' hip injury is more serious than they let out as well too. So I'd be curious what that looks like next week or so.
Interesting. So Cam Akers' stock just went up a little bit. He got traded again somewhere that he was not bad at for the brief stint he was there. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Thanks for letting me know. Now, talking about a few trades in our leagues, we're going to go first with the golf league. There was a fun little three-way that involved me and my wife. So jokes are available.
Collusion.
I don't know about collusion, but those three-way jokes are well available for you if you want to take
we found out who was the bottom. That's all that mattered in the trade.
I'm having a hard time pulling it up, so I apologize.
I got it here. 7 days ago.
Go ahead.
It was, so you traded away, you got Josh Downs and you traded away Spencer Rattler in a fourth. So talk about that first. So what I know you're very high on Downs. So talk me through that.
So I believe in Spencer Rattler too. 100% is what I'll first say. I thought because of who the quarterback was for the Saints that he was going to get a chance anyway, but Derek Carr played really well at the beginning of the year. But due to injury, Spencer Rattler was going to start at some point this year, which is why I drafted him to trade him. So that was the first mentality. But Josh Downs, whether people like to hear this or not, he's the number one in Indy. I don't know how many times I need to say this. Michael Pittman's a good receiver. It just, for some reason, Josh Downs has that connection with the two quarterbacks there. The other piece of it, which was Tank Bigsby, went to Fallon, who again is one of the lower teams. In the league. Rebuilding, which this might be a good move for him in the future. I was looking to get rid of Spencer Rattler, and these were actually the two teams that were talking to me. I don't know if I told you that part or not. And these were the two guys that I was looking to get. Was either Tank Bigsby or Josh Downs, and I wanted Josh Downs more. So I was able to get Josh Downs, and he get who he wants, Fallon and Tank Bigsby, after a game and a half of being good. I still believe Etienne's the number one there, and Dearness Johnson is a better back than what people give him credit for, in my opinion. So we'll see how much Tank Bigsby really does in this offense. But I took advantage, basically, of a quarterback need on a team, and on two teams, really, and let them battle it out for it. And I got a arguable number one wide receiver on a team for a quarterback who knows how long he's going to be there for, and a fourth-round pick that I don't value at all. So I was very happy with this. What is your look on it?
Well, I understand why Knickers made the trade, because she needed a quarterback, so she got Rattler, so that makes sense. Giving up Bigsby, I think by the end of the season you could see Bigsby. This is where you and I differ, where I think Bigsby could have the lead back. We talked about how that's already kind of happening with he's trying to take over more and more of the opportunities, and Etienne pulled his hammy in the last game, or he didn't play, or I don't know what happened there, but just more and more Bigsby has been good. You just see more burst out of him than you do with Travis. So I'd be curious if Bigsby could be the most valuable player in that trade by the end of the year. Because I think what's going to be tough is, like, you and I talked about quarterbacks are by far the most valuable in this league. I feel probably the second will easily be running backs. And you look at Josh Downs, who wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. If he's on your team, fine. But what can you do with him? And I wonder, with Anthony Richardson coming back, where he just likes to spread the ball out more and they're more run heavy and his opportunities will be a little more limited. I'd be curious to see where his value will be at the end of the year. If Spencer plays well like he did last week, I can see him starting the rest of the year because with the Saints, they're 50-50 tonight. Will go a long way to telling that, I think, playing the Broncos. But I can see Tank being the most valuable piece in this trade by the end of the season.
Yeah, like I said, it had a lot to do with my setup as well, I would say. I'm loaded at running back.
All it takes is Travis being out for 4 or 5 weeks, and you could probably easily flip Tank for a first then, which
True. True.
I mean, injuries that
I'm
happen.
looking at my team, and like Downs instantly starts on my team,
which is great, and that's where like you're making a bet on a player, and for me, you make more bets on players than I do, and then I always look at more. What can I do with this player now, or where's the value heading? And that's how I view things.
Yeah. So yeah, like I was looking at the running backs, and I was like, he's never going to play on my team. Like I have Eckler and Mostert on my bench right.
Well, the more
4 starting running backs.
Yeah. And if Fallon's listening, so I'm sorry, but when you're tanking, I guess maybe he's making a better play. Acquiring Tank could lead to a better pick down the road, but if I was him and I was tanking, I would want picks out of this, not a player back, because he's already sold Amon. He doesn't really have any quarterback, so he's kind of in tank mode, and all he's doing is acquiring a guy that's putting more points on his roster. So I would have went more pick route with him, just for protecting my next year's pick. But that was my only critique.
Well, even though I need to get it done, and I didn't have the picks, so I do agree with what you were saying, to maybe lose Josh Downs for a pick, probably mid-second is what my guess is. What you would be looking at there. But yeah, that trade got done very quickly for a 3-way. It was crazy. But the big trade that we want to talk about is we got 3 trades in the Denver versus Pittsburgh league that we're in, our 3-year league here. This one is the most recent and the most ridiculous that I've ever seen. So go ahead, you talk about your trade that you did with JJ, who is one of the worst teams in the league this year. We had all these pieces.
Okay. So please try to organize my thoughts as best as possible, because I'm going to go back a little while.
Yeah, no, we'll go back. We'll go back.
So from the get-go, like my team was kind of mid. I have all these rookies that are kind of building, and we'll kind of see where things were going. And I finally made a decision last week where no matter what, I'm either going to be a mid-team or I'm going for it. And I don't like to be stuck in the middle, so I finally made a big push. I've made some good bets, and that's what I like to do with all my dynasty leagues, is just make bets for the future. And the way it was trending was that I was going to have the 101, 102, and 103 for the upcoming 25 draft. And the guy that I made one bet with, the bottom finally fell out. So it was looking at he was going to be around the 102, 103 for the next 2 years. And he had some great pieces, like CD Lamb and AJ Brown. So I decided to make a push. We were kind of go back and forth with a few things. At one point, he wanted all 4 of my top future picks, and I was like, that's too much for 12 by 12. So we settled on basically the bulk of the trade is I got CD Lamb for probably will end up being the 102 and 25, and the guy's 26 first, so probably be another top 3, top 4 pick. And then I got the same, and then I traded. So I did one top 3 pick at 25, and then a mid to late 25 first, which I believe was my first. So that should be trading mid to late. And then I did the same thing for AJ Brown. I gave him his 26 pick, which once again should be a top 4 pick. And then another first that should be mid to late. So that's why I view it as the early first and a late first for both those guys. I feel like that was a big win. And then he's a Denver guy, so he liked Bo Nix. So he gave me Javonte Williams and Kirk Cousins for Bo Nix. And then I threw in a couple extra thirds, and I got Mooney, who is, I think, wide receiver 12 right now, so it gives me some good depth. So basically, I bought myself some insurance if Anthony Richardson gets hurt, because now I could start Jane Daniels and Anthony Richardson or Kirk Cousins. I got some running back depth with Javonte Williams, where I added the Kamara deal, which we'll talk about in a second. And then I got Mooney, who gives me some more wide receiver depth. So I feel like I have all the pieces I need now. I'm good at quarterback, receiver, running back, Brock Bowers, a tight end. So I basically gave up 4 first, 2 thirds, and some mad pieces for everything I needed.
Yeah, no, I don't see anything you gave up that was really bad. Bo Nix might turn out to be a great player, but you got Kirk Cousins for him, basically, in my opinion. That Kirk Cousins is the way to go, especially.
And Kirk Cousins, he'll be better this year. He'll probably be better next year.
Yeah, the bigger thing is that this is what you do with acquiring draft picks.
Yeah.
Make them into something that matters. And that's what I want to kind of focus on a little bit more than the whole aspect of the trade, because this trade looks bananas. But the focal point, the focal point really is that you just created arguably the best wide receiver room you could ever possibly create.
Yeah, when
you already have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison. Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr. Now you add CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, and Darnell Mooney's been playing really well. He's nowhere near those names.
No.
But when one of those have a bye, such as CeeDee Lamb this weekend, if you need to, you can put Darnell Mooney in as your last flex and be okay. Yeah. Javonte Williams, whatever, that's fine. It's better than Zamir White.
Yeah. And
that's what you really wanted to find. So something better than Zamir White and something better than Miles Sanders, which you got rid of both. The key, though, and this is what I wanted to focus on in this trade, is that you used your firsts for 3 proven commodities.
Yeah.
That you needed.
Well, and on top of that, knowing what's coming next, like I can't predict what's coming in 26, but like knowing that 25 is very heavy with running backs, knowing that the quarterbacks they're looking decent, the wide receivers are looking decent, but next year's the class you want to have running backs, and I still was able to, like, knowing what's coming, I was able to also keep the future 101 and the 103, so I can still build out that way. So knowing what's coming next is also very important, and I agree with you. You make bets, and this is what you do. Like, I've been making bets for 3 years, and now I'm pushing all my chips in.
Yeah, and this is how you use those first-round picks. I mean, honestly, to get the players that you need to go for a championship. And that's what you're doing now, is you're in that level of elite with Collin. I think it's kind of a 3-horse race in this league, and we'll see what happens. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about in this deal first off?
No, I think I agree with it. I mean, the only thing else that I like to do with first is attach them to players to tier up. This was just more of a unique situation where, I think the guy liked this trade because he was getting his first back. And for me, I always make someone pay extra to get their first back, because I don't like players to be in control. I like to be in control of other players. So I think that was important. That's why he accepted my trade over a different one, because we knew they were going to be a top 3 pick. And then on top of that, he was getting his picks back. So that's just something else. I like to control other players' futures and kind of seeing what happens there.
That is a huge point that you're kind of going over quickly, is people tank and you have their future picks. So you're fine with them tanking.
Yeah. Well,
and why would you tank if you don't have control of your own pick?
Well, and I've done the golf league. Like, I have a first that I traded Pittman for a first and second, and his team looked good in the preseason, and now his team is horrific. And just the way things fall sometimes. So it just, I'll always make bets, and then if they end up being the 110 through 114, then I'll either trade it away for a proven player, or I'll push it back to 26, and I'll just keep making bets, because eventually that bet will probably be in my favor. And then it happens where, like, I was going to have the top 3 picks in 25 with already a deep roster. And I just sped that up for a few years. So, yeah, that's what you do. Make bets, and if it pays off, then you can control where the league heads.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I absolutely love the trade for you. I don't mind it for him, because he now has some ammunition for the future. And
on top of that, you
had to go for it this year. You hate being in the middle. So I knew you were making a move or you were selling. And with the team you had, you couldn't sell. You were too close.
No.
So
and I was going to be.
I was just waiting to find out what it was.
Yeah, 4 picks in the top 6, top 7. That would have been a big bad thing. But I think, like, I've also been very lucky with the injury bug, where I haven't really hit injuries. Knock on wood, and my receivers are in their prime, and my quarterbacks are moving along faster than I expected. So I feel like my window is now, and I don't want to waste a potential year because I didn't go for it and have that regret at the end of the year. Because I like to win.
You don't want other people, like, there's 2 other teams there or 2, maybe 3, that have a legitimate chance to win the chip this year, other than you.
It's kind of like Monopoly, when you're going around the board and someone doesn't buy a piece, and then it goes to auction, right? And if I didn't make this move, the other highly competitive person in the league was going to buy these players.
Trust me. I am so happy it was you and not him, because he was the only team that I was worried about.
Yeah.
It was Kong. However, now I have to worry about 2 teams. But if he would have gotten these pieces, I wouldn't have been able to work. I
No,
wouldn't.
and that's the thing is like sometimes not making moves can work out, but I think in this turn it like not making this, I would have regretted this for years because every player I got is young in their prime, outside of Kirk Cousins, but he's just a solid QB2. Like he's someone that you want, like that's your perfect QB3, someone I could flip later on for another first if I need to. So I think I can get more value of Kirk Cousins if I need to. So I think this was just a win-win for both teams. But I think I got good value receivers.
Like I said,
for sure.
And this is another team that doesn't like being in the middle. You can tell. So he's got to sell because he wasn't ready for 12 by 12. He was a horse when it came to 10 by 10 or 12 by 10. 12 teams, 10 players. And he'll be back because he has all this ammunition now. But he knew he wasn't that kind of team this year. He won.
No, 5. I mean, anything else I would have done is I maybe would have sold off Lamb and Brown like he did. I probably would have tiered out and sold Lamb for Amon plus a first or something like that. Those are the moves I probably would have made. Warriors where I could still kind of do like a soft reboot and use those first to buy pieces for next year. Because now like he's doing this, he's probably going to be rebuilding for 2 or 3 years, which is fine. That's what you do. You go for it, didn't work out, then you rebuild. But he's just selling all the way down to the nuts and bolts, and I probably would have broke it down midway and then kind of built my way up from there and see what would have happened. I like to tier down in that same tier. If I can get those 3 first, then we'll kind of see what would have happened. Yeah. But also guaranteeing top 3 picks is also hard to pass up. So I don't blame him either.
No, absolutely. Especially when next year is a huge running back year. The following year, we know a quarterback that's coming out, more than likely. And
it's still early for 26. You'll know more. That will be next year's hype and kind of see from there. And because players that are doing it for 2, 3 years at a time is what you're looking for, just on a 1 year window. So,
right. All right. So you had another trade you kind of talked about very briefly. If you want to delve into that a little bit more, we're running low on time. So just a little bit about this one.
I don't like spending first on running backs. I think they're too volatile, especially with what's coming in 25. So I just, we've been working back and forth with Kamara trade. So I sent a second and 2/3, which, in a start 12, it's probably even. On paper, Kamara, I think, is the number 1 running back in fantasy right now, points wise. So I didn't have to give up the first, so I thought that was a steal. But, giving up a 3 for 1 in a 12 by 12 is hard to do because I think, theoretically that could be 3 starters. But depth is not my issue. And I knew that no matter if I made the trades or not, like it was coming. So I just wanted to give my guys some help. And I Swift has been killing it. So I've been, trying to load up, and I thought he was a great buy window, and I think it worked out for me. So,
yeah, no, when you made this move, it made me jump into getting another move as well because, like I said, 3 or 4 teams have a chance this year, and that's it.
Yeah, well,
it's maybe 5 with,
but it's also because of the inaction of some of the teams. Like they're like that's what we talked about, like the monopoly going, sending a piece to auction where it's like, if every team that was, because I think your division has what 3 or 4 4-1 teams,
3 5-1 teams, yeah.
Yeah, so like, and even the 4th guy's 3 and 2, like he's in it too. Like if all 4 of them weren't in on it, I know that the other guy in my division was in on it. So like, shame on them. Like that's like they may not have a lot of first, but they should have been in on that. Like that's what you do. Like if you're 5-1, why are you not going for all the best pieces? Because you're always, having someone come out of nowhere and make a trade. So that's where it's like you should be in on every available player that will help your team and seeing what things will cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of moves me into my trade that I made in Denver versus Pittsburgh, which is Tony Pollard. I traded Tyler Goodson.
Yeah, who might start this week, actually.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. I picked him up that Sunday morning and traded him away that same week. That's a win. I did give away a 2027 first, but I ended up getting a young running back that I believe in Audric Estime, who's coming off of IR. Javonte Williams has not solidified that role. I know you just traded for him, but he hasn't looked great this year. So we'll see if Estime gets a chance. But I took a shot with him, and then I got Tony Pollard, who's playing really good ball right now. He's had 1 or 2 okay games, but I think he's been one of the better rushers in the league. Eye test. He hasn't had that blow up game that Kamara had or Saquon had or any of that, but like he's been very consistent, very good. Someone I can add to my team with all the injuries that I have. You were talking about Aaron Jones. There's another one.
Yep.
That has been just solid, and you can guarantee 10 to 15 points almost weekly on a bad team too. So he's going to get the ball more because there's not many playmakers on that team. Obviously, I'm going for it right now. 2027 first round pick really means nothing to me, and this is what the best I could get off of it.
And maybe this is more of a next week question, but how do you feel not controlling your future for the next 3 years?
I'm okay because when I win this year,
okay,
I have free money for the next 8. I get to play this game for free for 8 years. Is the way I look at it. So,
okay,
or 7 years or whatever it is.
And maybe that's a conversation for like when to sell first, because like I sold my 26 first in this trade, but also like I know my window is for the next 3 or 4 years, so like I'm not too worried about it. But I also don't like selling future first that are not like leading into that next year, if that makes sense. Because like I don't like things can go wrong. Like I know my team is just so deep now, so it might not matter. But like things can go wrong, and then I've had your first the last couple of years, and you thought you were competing, and then injuries took over, and then it ended up being a pretty decent first.
But see, the difference is last year injuries did take over, and I didn't have the people or the horses behind. This year, I have 7 or 8 injuries already this year with my starters, and the horses behind have been just as good. So that's when I'm comfortable trading away everything to go for it, is when you're already on adversity and your horses are coming back shortly, but you're already under adversity, but you're still winning. That's when you go for it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because I'm going to get Cooper Kupp back soon. I got Deebo Samuel back quickly. Like, Tua should be back soon, so Tyreek Hill becomes relevant again. Pacheco should be coming off of IR next week. There was a few other people that were coming back. Achan's supposed to be back next week, or possibly this week. I didn't know about the Aaron Jones problem, but I got Tony Pollard, so I was comfortable there. Like, I'm covered under all bases, so I'm okay not having the 10, 11, 12 first round pick for the next 2-3 years, because the team is veteran oriented. However, they're not too old either. They're going to play for 2 or 3 more years at least. So I'm pretty set, I feel, for a couple of years, or I just trade away everything and I can get picks back for that next year or the next couple of years. That's the way my mentality is working, is I have to put in now because I know how good the number one team in our league is. I know how good they are, and I'm the only team that was close to them until you made this insane trade. That on paper, I was the only one that was close to them, that if there were injuries, if there was bye weeks, I can handle.
Yeah.
So I had to do everything. I need to do everything I can to make it happen now, because I know you're coming with all your picks.
I've arrived.
Your trades.
Let's just say I've arrived.
Well, right, but this was prior to your trade. Yeah. Nate, with his team, is coming with all of his picks. JJ obviously has now a lot of picks. Precky's team's young. Like, there's a lot of teams out there that are close.
Which makes it a healthy league economy, which makes it, it's good for the bad teams, because there's enough bad teams where they could sell. Right. And there's enough good teams where they want to keep buying. So there's good balance in the league right now, I think.
There is. But my point is that this is my year that I need, that me or Kong are needed to win. Because everyone else is coming. Yeah. We were there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I threw everything I could at everybody, and I'm not done. But hopefully we have another trade to talk about next week. But we'll see.
I hope not.
Yeah, we might. So that kind of gives us no time to talk about when to trade, but we kind of talk about that throughout the entire time. So we're running really short. So for Jim, I'm Mickey. This was Dynasty from the Mountaintops. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, see ya.
There were two big ones, but the biggest one for sure is Devontae Adams